Everywhere you look right now, people are talking about the war in Ukraine, and we'd like to highlight one man who's being called a global hero. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He's target number one, by the way, on Russia's hit list. And despite the fact that he and his family are in grave danger, he stayed behind to fight for his country. He even declined an offer by the U.S. to get flown out, saying instead, quote, "I need ammunition, not a ride." He's also been very active on Twitter, posting videos giving citizens updates on what he's doing to protect their independence. He's also got a fascinating backstory. He rose to fame as a comedian who starred in a hit show called Servant of the People in 2015 and became an unlikely politician who now is very popular. Tori, you posted something on your, I believe it was either your Instagram or your TikTok, where you did a whole deep dive on him. Dude, please tell our viewers.
I'm just really, when you talk about a leader, what's funny is Putin thought it would be about him, and this war has become about Zelensky. He's the first Jewish president of the Ukraine. He's had family, grandparents who died in the Holocaust. He understands the reality of war, but he understands social media. He's extremely progressive. He has a law degree, but he went into comedy. And I think of you, Al. He went into comedy and producing and played the Ukrainian president in like a Veep, right? And then he became the Ukrainian president, winning 73% of the vote on an anti-corruption platform. This guy is savvy beyond belief, and the way he has taken over this war, Ukraine's this big, Russia's this big, and yet all we hear is Zelensky, Zelensky. He stuck around, he understood the need, he understood the assignment, and he has been there in a way that is leading a resistance that might win. We're now having talks, and he says, I don't think they'll do anything, but I'm not going to be a person that doesn't show up. This man is a leader, and I think he will go down in history. I really do.
Absolutely. Just from the comedy thing, it's so interesting that we've seen people like Al Franken. Obviously he was a comic before he got into politics. But there's a weird thing, even when Trump was running and he was still kind of a joke.
Right.
I remember I was still a road comic, and I got off on this kind of off the side of the highway to go to Wendy's, of course, and I saw this school bus and it had Trump spray painted on it. And I called a friend and I was like, the Midwest is down with this dude, and he was like, no. And I remember thinking, as I looked at Zelensky, it makes sense because comics, we do what politicians say they do. They're like, I'm going to go talk to the people of West Virginia. My dad was a coal miner. Everybody's like, whatever. I'm a comic. I do the joke, and then I'll go get a drink with you and your wife, and then I have people invite me over for barbecue the next day when I'm in. So you touch the people, and you know what they care about, and it makes sense that this guy's such a charismatic leader because he's one of them. He's not an elite, Well,
it's one thing acting the part because he's an actor, and it's one thing walking the walk.
Yes.
This man is walking the walk. We're seeing such, for me, what it's like to be a man, or what the man I want to be, I should say, coming out of Ukraine, right? The man with his father or with his daughter, and saying goodbye because he's going to fight for his country. This president could easily get out of the Ukraine, easily get out of there and save himself. But no, he's going to stay with his people and fight. And it's about walking the walk. Everyone's a telephone tough guy. Everyone's tough on social media. How many people are going to walk the walk when it comes down to it? And he's proving it right now.
Well said. And so many of his citizens are following his lead. In fact, all over Ukraine right now, ordinary people, from baristas to barbers, are taking up arms and joining in to fight back. But it's not just the men. It also includes this mom of 3 who is also a doctor. She said she's leaving her kids at home to join the Ukrainian army to defend her country. Then there's Ukrainian boxer star Vasily Lomachenko. He's been a boxing world champion in 3 different weight divisions, and now he's returned. He went back to Ukraine just to fight against Russia. And finally, check out this photo that went viral, you guys. Look at this. This is an 80-year-old man who showed up to enlist carrying a bag packed with clothes, a toothbrush, some sandwiches. He said, "I'm fighting for my grandkids." I have chills. I just want to hear from you, Jeff, because you've already talked about this boxer in previous conversations.
Right. So Vasily Lomachenko, he was a world champion, like you just mentioned. I talked about him in a show how he started boxing at a young age, and then his dad's like, if you want to take this serious, you have to take ballet. So he took ballet, and then his dad, after he took ballet, put him back into boxing, which represented his footwork and things like that. But I want to talk about, again, the man that this person is, right? It reminds me a lot of Pat Tillman. After 9/11, he was an NFL football player. If you guys don't know, that's Pat Tillman right there, a hero, American hero, played for the Arizona Cardinals and left the team because of 9/11 and went to go fight in Afghanistan and lost his life. And that's what Vasily's doing. He's going back to his country because of the man who he is, not the accomplishments that he had. And it just speaks volume and what a role model that is.
I just hope people remember this, like a couple of years from now, once people start talking about the war on masculinity and the war on Christmas or whatever nonsense, the luxury of wars that you get to talk about when you don't have anything real to discuss. And imagine talking to the men and women that are in those foxholes that were at work last week that now have AK-47s and talk to them about how we don't put Christ in Christmas anymore and things like that. This is real life, and when you see it, it's startling because it makes you kind of have this self-reflective moment like, is everything that I'm doing and talking about nonsense?
Right.
When you see the reality?
Do you really have the right to complain about things when we're sitting here alive and well without bombs blowing up above us? I also do want to end this, and I think this was a great conversation. I just, a lot of our viewers always ask, how can we help? And we're doing everything we can to give you guys actual vetted sites. If you go to rescue.org, they have so many different humanitarian efforts with children, with families, women, and there's another really great site. If you can, just look up Green School. Green School are helping the African students that are having trouble crossing the border because unfortunately not everybody is being treated the same. Those refugees, there's a war of racism amongst the war of terror. So I just want everybody out there to know that you can check out rescue.org. You can also check out Green School.